Picture post-World War II France, a nation rebuilding from devastation with existentialism in the air from Sartre and Camus, and structuralism rising through Levi-Strauss and Saussure. Amid this intellectual renaissance, Jacques Lacan, born in 1901 in Paris, emerged as a psychiatrist turned psychoanalyst who revolutionized Freud's ideas. Trained in medicine and influenced by surrealism, Lacan attended Alexander Kojève's Hegel lectures and engaged with linguists, turning psychoanalysis from a clinical tool into a philosophical powerhouse. From the 1950s to his death in 1981, his seminars at the École Normale Supérieure drew crowds, blending Freud with Saussure's semiotics and Hegel's dialectics. Lacan critiques ego psychology's focus on adaptation, insisting on the subject's division by language and desire. Lacan's life mirrors his theories, eccentric, controversial, with excommunications from psychoanalytic societies for his short sessions and unorthodox methods. His eclectic and 27 volumes of seminars explore the unconscious as structured like a language, influencing post-structuralism, feminism, and cultural theory. External references like Bruce Pink's The Lacanian Subject highlight how Lacan shifts from biological drives to symbolic orders, addressing modernity's alienation. In a time of decolonization and feminism, Lacan proves how subjects from amid power and desire. From an ontology perspective, Lacan's era embodies entangled asymmetries, cultural forces demanding balance between inward subjectivity and outward social structures. His symbolic order parallels IO의 inner entanglement fields, where language entangles individuals in relational rhythms. Let's dive into the fascinating world of Jacques Lacan's psychoanalysis, where the human subject is shaped by language, desire, and deep-seated divisions. Lacan, a 20th century French thinker, reinterpreted Freud through linguistics, philosophy, and culture, making his ideas both profound and notoriously complex. But don't worry, I'll break it down with simple explanations and everyday examples to make it relatable. At its core, Lacan's theory explores how we become subjects, not just individuals, but beings split between illusion, social rules, and the unspeakable real. We'll cover his major concepts, starting with the mirror stage and building up to his views on culture and ideology. First up is the mirror stage, which Lacan introduced in 1936. It's the origin of the ego and our lifelong chase for wholeness. Picture a baby between 6 and 18 months old, gazing into a mirror for the first time. They see a complete, unified image of themselves, a Gestalt or whole form that contrasts sharply with their actual bodily experience, which feels fragmented and uncoordinated. Think flailing arms and wobbly movements. The child identifies with this mirror image, thinking, "That's me." This constructs the ego as an imaginary ideal, promising unity and control. But here's the twist. This wholeness is an illusion based on something external. The reflection isn't truly you. It's an alienated image. The subject spends life pursuing this impossible completeness, like chasing a perfect Instagram self that's always just out of reach. This alienation breeds narcissism, self-obsession, and aggression, frustration when reality doesn't match the ideal. Structurally, it's a developmental milestone, but developmentally, it sets up a lifelong fantasy of unity. As Lacan saw it, this stage explains why we crave validation from others. It's rooted in that first external gaze. Building on this, Lacan developed his famous three orders or registers: the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real. These are interdependent realms that structure our psyche. The imaginary is tied to the mirror stage. It's the world of images, similarities, and illusions where we build false senses of wholeness. Think of it as the realm of ego, self-image, projections, and fictional identifications, like seeing yourself as a hero in your own story or idealizing a relationship that's really just a projection of your needs. The symbolic is the domain of language, law, and social order. It's how we are molded into functioning members of society. Here, the subject is constituted through words and rules which institutionalized lack. We are never complete because language always points to something missing. The big other, like society, authority, or even God, constrains us, and symbols like the name of the father, the paternal law, or prohibition, organize our desires by separating us from primal unity. For example, the mother's wholeness. Learning law as a child introduces symbolic boundaries, teaching you that desires are mediated by rules. The real is the unpresentable leftover, the dimension outside signs and symbols where things like death, trauma, or extreme ecstasy can't be fully captured in words. It's the raw, traumatic residue that disrupts the other orders, like a nightmare that defies explanation or a moment of pure bliss that splits away. These three aren't separate silos. They are intertwined. Lacan described them as mutually dependent, like links in a chain. The imaginary gets regulated by the symbolic rules, while the symbolic frames the leg of the real. Cut 1. And the whole structure unravels, explaining why psychic breakdowns feel so total. Next, desire. Lacan's engine of human motivation. Desire isn't just wanting something, it's fundamentally directional, born from lack. We don't desire objects for themselves, but because they stand in for what the other desires. Desire is the desire of the other. It's metonymic, sliding along chains of signifiers, words or symbols, never fully satisfied. Enter object petit, A, the little object A, a remnant that sparks desire, like a lost toy, representing unattainable wholeness. For instance, in relationships, you might chase a partner, not for who they are, but because they fill a symbolic gap, only to find the desire shifts elsewhere. Then there's a jouissance, often translated as enjoyment, but really a paradoxical mix of pleasure and pain. It's the real piercing through beyond symbolic limits. It's ecstatic yet destructive, often tied to taboos, like the thrill of breaking rules that borders on suffering. Lacan's controversial take on gender. Men are limited to phallic jouissance, structured by law, while women can access other jouissance beyond it, debated fiercely by feminists. But it highlights how jouissance evades full representation. Symbolic castration isn't literal. It's the metaphorical cut, where the subject enters language and law, losing imaginary wholeness. The phallus isn't anatomical, but a central signifier of lag, power, and desire. The axis around which everything revolves, separating us from material completeness by the name of the father. Lacan borrowed from linguistics for metaphor and metonymy. Metaphor substitutes signifiers, creating new meanings like poetic leaps, while metonymy shifts along chains, sustaining desire's endless departure. Desire operates like grammar, structured yet slippery. The subject is the bad subject, split and lacking, always constituted in the overlap of images. The other's gaze, or law, meaning slides in signifiers, debunking myths of a complete self. In his later work, Lacan visualized the others as a borrowing knot. Three rings interact, so removing one unlinks all. This shows their functional interdependence, countering reductions like everything is language. Lacan's ideas extend to culture and ideology, as Slavoj applies them. Media creates fantasy totalities, organizing desire, reproducing ideology. In films or politics, illusions veil the real, sustaining power structures. Inner ontology begins with inner instincts, primordial in superposition of inward coherence and outward differentiation. Through inner entanglement, asymmetries emerge with balance, layering, nuance, positive inward for integrity, outward for empathy. For consciousness recurses as self-entangling loops, from soft, collective patterns to hard, aware self-reference. Scale invariant, I/O unifies quanta to consciousness in participatory rhythm. This is IOE in its primordial asymmetry, where the emergent ego becomes the inward coherence, shaped by an outward idea. Desire flows through this asymmetry. Lack moves as negative outward balance, initiating a pursuit toward incomplete wholeness. The symbolic order becomes a relational field. Language, norms, and law as directional entanglements, shaping how the self is modulated toward the big other. The real stands prior to duality, an IOI-like pre-categorical dimension that resists entanglement, traumatic because it exceeds symbolic capture. Jouissance becomes a moment of intense balance shift, disruptive yet ecstatic, a limit zone where IOE strains toward its threshold. Lacan's bad subject reveals consciousness as recursive entanglement, a structure marked by lag vibrating between inward stabilization and outward projection. Where Lacan is critiqued for neglecting biological grounding, IO offers primitives capable of unifying psyche, embodiment, and directionality through rhythmic monism. Viewed through IO, the mirror image is the generative pulse of IOE. The three orders become layered balance domains, imaginary as inward illusion, symbolic as outward relational field, real as pre-dual IOE existence. Desire manifests as directional asymmetry. Jouissance is the peak of entanglement where the pattern nearly breaks. Lacan deepens IO by exploring the bad subject as recursive rhythm. Self emerging not from substance, but from directional yearning. Together, they bridge ontology and psychoanalysis, each clarifying the other's blind spots, each grounding the other's abstraction. This synthesis reframes psychoanalysis. Desire becomes balance flow. Therapy becomes modulation of entanglement, balancing inward lag with outward commitment. In culture, Zizek's insight into ideology as fantasy aligns with I/O. Media becomes simulated entanglement, veiling the real. For emergence, Lacan anticipates recursive minds, an architecture resonant with IoE dynamics, testable even through therapeutic AI. Lacan and I/O converge into a single pulse. The mirror stage becomes the genesis of IoE. The others unfold as balance layers. The subject emerges as leg-shaped entanglement. Lacan reveals the psychic fracture. I/O provides directional ground. Together, they reveal existence as rhythmic desire, alienated, recursive, and luminous. In this cosmos, to live is to entangle, to desire is to co-emerge. So, allow the rhythm.